Hello and welcome to Raising Those Spirits. I'm Steve,
And I'm Sam.
and we're back after our holiday hiatus. Sorry for the
Yeah.
delay. Sam had COVID.
Yeah, it's true. The hiatus was not supposed to be nearly this long, but I kicked the holiday season off with a nice little bout of COVID. It was my first time getting it after 3 years of avoiding it. So that was kind of sad for me that my streak ended.
You hate to see it.
Yeah. Now it was, I felt like I had a cold all day, and then in the middle of the night, I was like shivering, and I'm like, oh man, the only time I've ever felt like this was when I had my COVID booster shot. And then I was like, oh shit. Well, I got to work from home for a week, so
Yeah,
I'll take it.
it's
Yeah,
great,
it's a
isn't
nice
it?
little. It was nice working from home for a little while. Uh, the the worst thing about it, I had COVID, my wife had COVID, our daughter had COVID, but she didn't have any symptoms. So we had a completely full energy 5-year old, and then like two just wanting to be in bed parents. We had to keep her entertained for a week without going outside. Because it was also just cold. Even when we were feeling good, it's not like we could take a walk.
Yeah, that's one of our problems is like with RSV and the cold and flu spike and the COVID spike, we just don't want to take our son out anywhere.
Oh, it's hard.
Like even healthy, it's like I don't want to go anywhere that's indoors with a lot of people because there's three different spikes right now, and we've
I'll
already had
just
COVID
hand
twice.
sanitizer. Just
So
hand sanitizer, that's all. Just only hand
everything,
sanitizer. That's your whole life right now.
yeah, just drink it out of the bottle.
Delicious. So good.
Delicious. So
Anyway, we're glad to be back.
we're back. We're kicking off season three. This is year
Season
three, which
3.
is insane. And
Up, still going.
we're changing up format again. Season one, we did like spooky going ons, things you can do that are spooky around this time. Year two, we did
Holidays. Spooky holidays.
spooky holidays around the world. And what are we doing this year? We liked Christmas Cryptid so much, we decided to do it all year.
Yeah, we're gonna see how many we can get. We're gonna go state by state, U.S. state, if you're a listener in the United States, alphabetically, and we're gonna talk about different cryptids from each state. So we're gonna kick it off this week alphabetically with Alabama. I shouldn't have said it like that. So that was offensive.
I'm not cutting it.
uh, oh, good. No, that's fine. Steve, you ever been to Alabama?
I can proudly say I have not.
No, I have also never been to Alabama, but I did have a little bit of fun learning about the Wolf Woman of Mobile, Alabama. Steve, have you ever heard of the Wolf Woman of Mobile, Alabama?
The name sounds familiar, but I probably only because like to skim lists of cryptids. I've never researched it, but I believe I've seen it.
I also texted you about it like 2 hours
You did. You definitely did.
ago. I did. So the Wolf Woman of Mobile, Alabama, in April of 1971, the Wolf Woman of Mobile, Alabama was seen by over 50 people reported having seen this, and it was described as having the top half of a woman and the bottom half of a wolf.
How does that
No,
work?
no, I don't know. Every picture I found, like every drawing of the wolf woman, where it's just been like a woman's face on a wolf's body, like a sphinx, I guess, but a
That's not what they
wolf.
described at all.
No, because think about it. Like how it so it would have to be like a centaur to be as described, right? Which would mean, is it like a tiny woman or is it a giant wolf? Either
Yeah,
way, it's scary.
because I was thinking, the deer lady, the Native American
Hmm?
myth. I was thinking kind of like deer lady, but with like a woman and a wolf, almost like a satyr or something.
Sure.
Um,
The
but
legs don't seem like they would really work right.
I mean, deer legs are the same shape as canine legs.
Guess. Yeah, I guess that's fine. I don't know. It's all open to interpretation. You should just I want to feed it into a an AI image generator and see what it pops back out.
I'm gonna do that
Yes,
right now in the Discord.
can. I've seen you do it on a different Discord thread. You were making some pretty sweet, looked like D&D character photos. Was that what you were
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, I'm working on stuff for my campaign. It's funny because a bunch of people have like seen it and commented on it, and I'm like, I literally when I created a separate page that I locked for only me, so all my players wouldn't see the things. 'Cause I come up for concept art for like locations and stuff as well, and all these people were commenting, and I was like, "You're not supposed to see this," but all
Well, they
right.
looked pretty cool.
So what is this? It's the wolf
Wolf
lady,
Woman
wolf
of
woman.
Mobile, Alabama. And I'm pulling up. So, according to an article I found on 953thebear.com, that must be a local Alabama radio station. It is described as a creature that had the body of a wolf, but the head of a beautiful woman.
That's not the prompt at all.
They're still kind of neat. I mean, they're still neat.
Oh yeah.
I'll have something we can use as a thumbnail. Alright, so anybody who is logged on to our Instagram, I think should be able to see what the AI that we fed the image prompt into spat back out. Does not really look like what was described. And
Yeah,
the
it's been bad.
it's been bad. It did not understand what we were saying. And hey, it's a new technology. We're working with what we got. Um, So there were over 50 sightings of the wolf woman of Mobile, Alabama. They ended after a few weeks. I think it's important to point out that all of these accounts were in April of that month. There was no hard evidence of them ever finding the wolf woman. Easily could have just been a an April Fool's Day hoax or something like that. This was 1971. Maybe somebody taxidermed a face onto a wolf or something and just
This
like
seems
wandered it around.
exactly like something like a wandering carnival attraction that someone would have in the back of their van.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of ways that this could have happened, and everybody maybe they would just wanted to believe that they saw a half woman, half wolf. Who knows? Or maybe it was some nefarious types who were trying to cover up an art forgery ring or something like that.
Well, I'm
To
not
tie it into tonight's topic.
the AI art generator literally cannot fathom what this is. The closest I've gotten is the first thing I did, and it's not good.
I'll
Um,
put all these on
God, some
Instagram.
of these are just absolutely horrifying.
See what it comes up. We'll try this every week, and we'll see what it comes up with.
I love it. Yeah, this'll be a new thing. That'll be part of it. I will try and figure it out. Wow. Okay, I like this.
Good. We're figuring season 3 out as we go. Literally, as the episode is being recorded. Normally, we hash this stuff out in advance.
Yeah, well, that's this season. This season, you're in with us. You're behind the scenes. You're making the decisions.
We'll start recording our episode planning sessions, and everybody can listen to that too.
You have to get on our Patreon for that, our non-existent Patreon.
If we start a Patreon, that will be the reward for supporting us. If you pay $1 every month, you can listen to us talk about how we put episodes together, and it will be not that great of content. Oh, shoot. Oh, why don't I talk about what I'm drinking this week? Because I clearly have already drank all of it. Um, so this week, my drink, to tie into the state of Alabama, I went with the Yellow Hammer cocktail, which is very, very popular when there's college football happening. That is made up of ice cubes, 1/2 part absolute vodka, 1/2 part light rum, 1/2 part amaretto, 1 part orange juice, and 2 parts pineapple juice. You can serve that with a slice of orange. And I will tell you, I understand why it is so popular. It was very good. And I drank the whole thing, which I don't always do. and I drank it right before we started recording. So this should be a good one for me.
Nice.
Oh, jeez. What'd you drink, Steve? What are you
S-
drinking? Are you drinking it now?
Um, I,
You
f-
drinking?
I was. I think we both got into it before this. So, to tie into this week's episode, I drank the Vincent Price's new fashioned cocktail. As opposed, it's his spin on an old fashioned.
You gotta love that Vinny Price, man. I cooked something out of his cookbook once, and he knows what he's doing in the kitchen.
Yeah, I learned like all about his cookbook and stuff. It's insane that he has all this. But yeah, so the recipe for this cocktail, and it is generous to call this a cocktail. It is slightly big more than a shot. Like I was like, this glass is so empty. Uh,
Well, I mean, still good. Still good. Doesn't need to be big if it tastes good.
you take a sugar cube, you put in 3 dashes of bitters, and you're supposed to stir that around with a spoon to dissolve the sugar. 3 dashes of bitters is not nearly enough to dissolve that
I have
much
to say, how
sugar.
does that even work? That
The
would
sugar
not work.
cube just absorbed all of it and stayed in the cube. Then you put 1.5 ounces of light Canadian whiskey in. I chose to do American whiskey. I did Eagle Rare because I find
Mm.
that to be a very good whiskey. A splash of club soda. Normally we're a tonic house, so I had to go out and buy some club soda. And then you put in a twist of lemon and a maraschino cherry.
Hmm.
I was really optimistic about this. I love old fashions. I've talked about that many
Hmm.
times on the pod. I'd rather
Yeah,
just
you
have an
have.
old. I'd rather just have an old fashioned. This was weird.
Didn't
Um,
sound good.
it's not. I mean, it looked like it could have maybe been good,
Hmm.
and it just did not come together.
Oh, well, sorry, Vinny Price.
I
This
finished
was
this, and I made a real old fashioned.
this was not the best thing that Vincent Price did that we will
Yeah,
talk about.
it was an
It-
unnecessary change on a classic. Like, there's some good changes on old fashions. I've done them on this show. I had the maple old fashioned from Canada.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was good. But no, I don't recommend this one. But I did a Vincent Price cocktail because we are doing Scooby Doo not just this week, but for the next 2 weeks. So Scooby Doo kind of has two 30-year arcs.
Hmm.
There's early Scooby Doo, which we'll say goes from the 60s to the late 90s. And
Hmm.
then I will call them reboots that go from like 2000 to present,
Yeah, I wanted to call them New Scooby Doo, but then I realized that oh, some of that's 20 years old.
20 plus years old. Yeah.
I was like, oh no, it's actually been a long time since What's New Scooby Doo. What's New Scooby Doo is old news. It has is that I think the emo band doing their song. Anyway, we're talking classic tonight. Anyway.
Yeah, there have in total been 14 iterations of Scooby Doo with the new edition of Velma, which
Hmm.
I'm hearing is not good, but
I've watched every episode that has aired to date of this recording, which I think is the first 4 episodes have gone up. It is a misfire.
yeah, I heard apparently she didn't pitch it to be Scooby Doo. She pitched it to be a completely different show, and they were like, "We like it, but make it Scooby Doo," and that's why it's not working. Like, apparently it
Oh,
might have worked if it wasn't trying to be Scooby Doo.
think that being Scooby Doo is one of its biggest problems, and hearing that it was not initially intended to be makes a lot of sense. And I really think being Scooby Doo is something that's working very much against it. Um,
Yes.
so if
Okay.
that is true, that I think that tracks. Because I would say, because when I was watching it, I was like, well, if I take this completely separate from Scooby Doo, like don't think of this as Scooby Doo at all, it's fine. Like I could sit and scroll through my phone while it's on the background, and it's entertaining enough that I can will go back and it'll keep my attention. It's not great. I don't think it's not a great show, but uh it's not like I would say absolutely under no circumstances you should watch the show. if you're thinking that in that context. As part of Scooby Doo, it is just a just a mistake. It should not. They should not have done that. Uh, I don't mind changing the races of characters that have been around for like 60 years. Like they didn't need to stay white for as long as they had, and they're not always in the new like Scooby Doo computer animated movies. I know they changed up some of the races, and I think that is totally fine. I know that in some of the live action movies they've changed them up. That's fine. I just don't feel like anybody who's working on this show particularly liked Scooby Doo. I don't think it was made by a bunch of Scooby Doo fans. I think it was made by people who are making their own thing. Uh, the Scooby Doo skin over it, and Scooby Doo's not even in it.
Yeah,
There's no dog.
yeah. Well, because there was no plan for it to be Scooby Doo.
Yeah, and it's good that he's not there. I'll keep watching it. It's fine. Like I said, it's a phone scroller show.
It's something
It's
you
fine
put
to
on the
have on the
background.
background.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we've established there's two different, we'll say,
Eras.
eras. That's the word I wanted. There's two different eras of Scooby Doo, and so we're gonna do three of the shows from each era. We're not gonna cover all 14 existing. Um, so we kind of are going through the list. It originally started on CBS in 1969 with Scooby Doo, Where Are You? I would say the most iconic of all the Scooby Doos, which is funny because it was only 25 episodes. So we started with Scooby Doo, Where Are You? Back on CBS, and then in 1976 it moved to ABC, and it premiered with the Scooby Doo Show. So we are covering the Scooby Doo Show, and then in 1985, the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo was the last full Scooby Doo iteration, with the exception of a pup named Scooby Doo, but that completely changed everything up. So we covered those three because I refused to do the 3 seasons full of Scrappy Doo. Um, I don't own them, I refuse to own them. And that's really disappointing because those are all long seasons. That's like 100 plus episodes that I'm losing, but that's also 100 plus episodes that I don't have to watch Scrappy Doo.
No,
Um,
there's yeah, no good, no bueno.
and then next week we'll cover the more modern air quotes things, starting with its reboot on the WB with What's New Scooby Doo, and then it moved to the CW Shaggy and oh no, we aren't doing that one. Then we skip that very short-lived Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue. We're doing What's New Scooby-Doo on the WB, and then Cartoon Network's Be Cool Scooby-Doo, and then HBO Max's Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, to kind of get as broad of a spectrum as we can from the many, many
Scooby as we can fit into.
iterations of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
And I will say, Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, we think is so good it's going to deserve its own episode in the future. Because we both have a lot of thoughts on Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah. So, all right, let's jump into Scooby Doo Where Are You? Now, fun thing about Scooby Doo Where Are You?
Mm.
It originally aired as a competitor to ABC. It was against the Hardy Boys TV show.
Hmm.
Uh,
I did not know that.
Yeah, and then eventually it did so well, sometimes with up to 65% of the viewership in that time slot. That's when ABC acquired it, and I think just gave up on the Hardy Boys and took over Scooby Doo for a couple decades. But
Hmm.
Scooby Doo, Where Are You? Basically spawned so much of Hanna-Barbera in that era. Josie and the
Really did.
Pussycats. Hmm?
Yeah, it created kind of the template for so much of what was to come after it, like in a big way.
Yeah, like the Funky Phantom, Speed Buggy, Jabberjaw, Goober and the Ghost Chasers, Captain Caveman and the Teenagers. Like, there's just so many spin-offs. not spin-offs, but basically just clones. And it's
Mm.
weird to see the same company clone things. Usually it's like their competitors.
Yeah, and there's even like they. If you even look at some of the character models of some of those other shows, you can see that they. I think Shaggy, pretty much his exact same character model, shows up on another show.
Oh,
I don't
Jabberjaw.
remember. Was it
No, no,
Jabberjaw?
sorry, not Jabberjaw. Speed Buggy. He is the mechanic
Speed
in
Buggy.
Speed Buggy.
Yeah, and it's not Shaggy, but it's also not Shaggy. I don't know exactly how to describe it. Like I didn't watch. This is the only show of that um, group that I really watched.
So Scooby Doo, where are you? Shaggy is actually based off of another a real life person.
Hmm.
He is a character of it was, but yeah, I did not know that Shaggy. Like one of the reasons Scooby Doo took off is that a lot of Scooby Doo is actually like pop culture references, and we just don't get them now. Kind of like Looney Tunes. A lot of the
Sure.
references in Looney Tunes are actually like super culturally cutting and relevant, but we don't get them, which has actually affected the American vernacular. Like Nimrod is actually a
Oh yeah,
great
that's it
hunter
was a great hunter, but now it means idiot because of that one
because no
Looney
one
Tune.
knew the reference after a certain amount of years. But
Yeah, that's one of my favorite little Looney Tunes trivia is that they completely changed the meaning of a word.
they did it multiple times, I think.
It's wild.
Okay, so I finally found it. Shaggy is based off of Maynard in Dobie Gillis, I believe, was the name of a show. He even has, yep, it's even the same hair and goatee. Dobby Gillis. The Many Loves of Dobby Gillis was a show that was big at that time period, and Shaggy is, if you look up,
Oh,
um,
because he's Bob Denver. It's the Bob Denver is the actor there.
yeah, he looks like exactly like him.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
So yeah, a bunch of little things like that were built into this to try and kind of make it popular. It played off of a bunch of popular book series and stuff, and that's kind of why it was a flash in the pan. And it's funny because Scooby Doo didn't create the genre, but it is anytime something like that happens, it's referred to as Scooby Doo esque.
Yeah. So it didn't create the genre, but they popularized it, or they cemented it.
They
They
cemented
cemented it
it.
to become what it still is today.
Scooby Doo is the
There,
gold standard of this entire genre.
yeah, there's a reason. It's going on. Yeah, getting up close to 60 years. It's been going. These characters have moved beyond, I think, just being characters on this show and becoming archetypes for pretty much all teenage mystery solver TV gangs. Like yeah, like on Buffy, they referred to themselves as the Scoobies.
Yeah.
Um, so they've the Scooby Doo gang has really grown beyond itself. They've taken on a place of pop culture importance. I'd say even beyond their own media. They
Oh, yeah.
exist as like the platonic ideal of paranormal mystery solvers.
I was in Edinburgh, Scotland, with my wife a few years ago, and we found a Scooby Doo themed cafe
In Edinburgh.
in Edinburgh, and we ate there
Well, there
because
was. You want something familiar? Did you get a Scooby
no,
snack?
no, the food was terrible. It was like American food. It was like hot dogs and stuff.
Oh,
But like it was just one of those things where we needed to eat. It was the only food around, and we were like, ah, this will be quaint and quick, and it was just bad. But
yeah.
my point is, Scooby Doo has become like weirdly universal.
Yeah, I think even Eddie Izzard had a bit about it like 20 years ago, um, about how it has this kind of cultural currency to it, of American pop culture around the world. People know Shaggy and Scooby.
So, when's the last time you watched the original Scooby Doo? Where are you?
I could not tell you.
Yeah,
For this, I don't know when.
it's been a long time. I think I might have been a teenager.
Hmm,
Uh,
it seems
so
fair.
jumping back into Scooby Doo, Where Are You? My first thoughts are like that opening is was so nostalgic. Like the music, the art, everything. I know that opening by heart.
Mhm. Same here.
And just like everything about it, I feel like still holds up.
It really. I mean, it's one of the great cartoon theme songs. It's one of the great theme songs
Yeah, and
because
like
it's one of those ones that everybody knows. I don't know when I learned the lyrics to Scooby Doo, but I know all of them
I
by
just know
heart to
them.
this day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just know them.
I don't remember a time in my life without Scooby Doo.
It's that big like brass opening, bum, bum, bum,
Yeah,
and it goes right into it. It's so
and
it, it
it
gross. Like it pulls you right
it
into it.
pulls you in and it tells you exactly what this show is about to be. Like you watch this 30-second opening and you 100% know what Scooby Doo is. So, that's my initial thoughts. So, I should say for each of these series we watched the first episode.
Mhm.
So, the first episode of this series is What a Night for a Night.
Which yeah, introduce one of the great Scooby villains. One of the ones people always remember just because it's the first one. He's a knight.
Yeah, it's the Black Knight's armor is walking around causing mischief. Although one of the things I did notice is they're already established mystery solvers in the first episode.
I didn't realize that until I watched it this time. They say, "Oh, we've got another
Ano-
mystery."
yeah, I turned to my wife and I was just like, wait, what? Like,
So that means, and that's it. You know, it's one of the things they always end up going back to is like origin stories in later years of Scooby Doo productions. Like they'll be like, oh, like a pup named Scooby Doo, or even some a lot of the stuff they're putting out now, even Velma. For what it's worth, they always say, it's always the story of them coming together as a crew. But I don't think they need to. I think it's great that they just say that. It's like, oh, we're detectives. We drive around. We solve mysteries. There's no getting to know each other period that we have to tackle. Um, in this pilot episode of this cartoon, we're gonna walk into this story fully formed, and we're just gonna do what we always do, even if you, the audience, have never seen it before. I thought that was a really smart move.
yes. So you can really come in at any episode. Which is true for a lot of Scooby Doo. Most Scooby Doo, with the exception of a few of the shows, are just kind of Monster of the Week. There's no overarching plot.
Yeah, you have to imagine since these episodes were going to get like rerun sporadically. They're Saturday morning cartoons of the 1960s. There was no chance for there to be any continuity. Continuity was never going to work in this era. It's just not something that would have been done at all.
Yeah, because if you miss an episode, you're missing that. Yeah, you're done.
So you would never have, and this is something we'll see later. You're never going to have like an episode to episode. There's not going to be an overarching story. Like that would not have worked in this format, and it's written for 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
Um,
That
it
said,
was
my 3-year-old son was so into this.
It's great.
He was screaming no when we turned it on. He did not want to watch it, and by the end of the opening, he was hooked.
It's great.
He was definitely like scared at some points, but not like bad scared, like hiding behind us, but like grinning and cheering. Um, so.
I have not watched these old Scooby Doo's with my daughter yet. She is very, very into right now the new Scooby Doo. So I'll try some of the new stuff with her for next time. And
Nice.
I mean, the formula hasn't changed a lot. I mean, the animation is better now, but like what this episode sets forth, I mean, there's no way that they could have known that over a half a century later we'd still be watching this show. But the people who put it together, they put something together that was so clean and tight, and it's perfect.
Yeah. And it holds up, like, because a lot of things you're like, if they just had a cell phone or something, but like, you don't. I didn't find myself thinking that for some reason.
Now,
Not that it wasn't true. It's just like it's not one of those shows that prompted that. It's like no, this is the world. You understand the logic. Blah 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 blah. So some of the things I noticed, because now, especially like over the years, Shaggy and Scooby have kind of become everyone's become a caricature, but like Shaggy and Scooby are always kind of useless. And in this
I
episode,
felt like they were
in
pretty
this
active.
episode, they were not useless.
No,
Sha-
they did a lot of stuff.
Shaggy is a gymnast apparently. When I don't remember that, but they were like, "Oh, Shaggy can climb up and spin in. He's the best gymnast in the school." And then he does, and I was just like, "What?"
Well, I think it's one of those things where again, like there was no way they were going to be able to keep that continuity up over so many years. Certain things have fallen by the wayside. Nobody remembers that Shaggy is a
Expert gymnast.
expert gymnast. It just didn't stick with the character after so many years.
Shaggy is
Oh,
also a ventriloquist who can throw his voice across a room.
yeah, well, I feel like that would come in handy a lot.
A lo-
That's the only time I've ever seen him do it.
I,
Again, like this is the first time rewatching in so many years, but
yeah, I've been my son's really into it now, so I've watched a lot of this season over the last few days. But yeah, I was sitting there like, who else has skills? Because right now it's just Shaggy and Scooby doing everything. And that is not the Scooby Doo that we have now.
no.
They are
Uh,
very useful. Scooby charges into danger. Uh,
yeah, he wasn't a coward here.
yeah, like
He's
he
not the coward that
is,
he is portrayed as now.
like he is not necessarily brave. He still gets like frightened, but it's like a healthy, like apprehension. Like you should be in a we're gonna get murdered situation.
Uh,
But yeah, no, I
yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, it's a solid episode. It holds up. It just as entertaining. Like as an adult watching it, I'm just as entertained as I think I was as a kid. Um, Not surprised your son enjoyed it even at 3. I feel like because it's so the animation's a little dated. I think that daughter who is very tuned into the way cartoons are now. I don't know what would hold her attention because of that, um, but I am gonna try it with her. It's definitely still okay for the age range it was originally written for. It really, really holds up.
Yes.
In a way that I didn't expect it to, which is why didn't I expect it to? Like, there's a reason that they always go back to this episode too. Any like new iteration of Scooby Doo, they're probably at some point going to reference their first adventure together, and they always say the Black Knight, which, as we know now, was not actually their first adventure because they're already an established mystery team at that point. Yeah, really good. Good for kids
But yeah,
to
and as
watch.
you said, for 1969, not problematic.
Oh,
I mean, problematic in the fact that I don't think I've ever seen like a single person of color except for Asian characters, but
we'll get
not
there.
nearly as problematic as it could be.
Now, other than the fact that like all the characters are white, and of course it's a American-based cartoon in the 1960s, all the characters are going to be white. I think other than that, it holds up really well. I think the thing that I think is most amazing about Scooby Doo is that Frank Welker is still voicing characters on this show. Frank Welker, who plays Fred in this, keeps coming back to play Fred in pretty much every iteration of Scooby Doo, except for um, a couple of occasions. He's now Scooby in pretty much everything. Anytime Scooby is a voice, it's Frank Welker these days. Even into Velma, he plays Fred's dad, since he's not playing Fred in that. It's Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny. Um, but yeah, I would if I ever meet Frank Welker, I would love to ask him. It's like, could you have possibly expected that over half a century later, Fred Jones would still be paying your bills?
For real.
It's amazing, and he sounds the same. Like he's such an incredible voice actor. He's been in just about everything. I mean, like he's been in pretty much every major cartoon of our childhood, and continues to be in very high demand.
And it's funny because half of the original cast retired before they even got to like the second iteration of Scooby Doo.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, Casey Kasem stuck around as Shaggy for a number of years.
Yes.
Um,
But Daphne
Think
retired after a season. Velma retired after two.
they've
Uh,
had a few Velmas.
yeah, they've had a bunch of Daphnes, a bunch of Velmas. Just the two Shaggies for the most part.
Casey Kasem and now Matthew Lillard has taken over. There's
Okay,
been a couple of Scoobies.
so I give this this is still A plus. I think if
Yeah,
you are nostalgic for Scooby Doo, check out the Scooby Doo show. It holds up. It's really good.
yeah,
Sorry, not the Scooby Doo show. Scooby Doo, where are you?
we
We're
do.
gonna move
And I,
on to the Scooby Doo show.
and I'm going to admit something that I didn't realize. I thought those were the same thing. So the only so I watched The Dark Knight and got confused. So you're gonna have to explain the Scooby Doo show to me. I watched 13 Ghosts, but I missed this one. That was my bad for getting confused when I was reading our notes.
That's fine. Um, I'll take Scooby Doo show.
Tell me all about it. I
All
want to
right.
hear about it.
So the Scooby Doo show is ABC's first attempt at doing Scooby Doo.
Hmm.
I will say off the bat, I did not like this as much, but I only watched the first episode. It might have just not been a great episode.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because it's very much the same, but it's also very different. I remember the visuals of the opening, but I do not remember the opening song. It is very bad.
It's
Um,
the Laugh Olympics one where they have all the different Hanna-Barbera characters come together. Is that one, or is it a
no,
different
that's
show?
so
That Laugh
that's
Olympics.
the Laugh Olympics is what this turned into, but for season
Oh.
one it was just the Scooby Doo show, and then the Scooby Doo show evolved into the All Star Laugh Olympics.
Oh, so what was this?
This was the Scooby Doo show.
I know, but like, was it? Did they change the format at all, or was this like clips of old episodes or something?
No, the Scooby Doo show is just all new episodes of Scooby Doo.
Oh,
But
okay. So
but
it
it
was its
doesn't
own
have
whole new thing.
it's basically just season 3 of Scooby Doo Where Are You?
Hmm.
It cuz Scooby's All-Star Laugh Olympics is where they start hanging out with Batman and Captain Caveman and like celebrities. So it's not that part. I wish it was that part because that has some of
That's
my
pretty
favorite
iconic.
episodes. Yeah, I
That's
love
iconic.
All Star Laugh Olympics, but we did not watch All Star Laugh Olympics because I don't have All Star Laugh Olympics. This did introduce Dynamite, the dog Wonder,
Hmm.
who eventually got his own spin off show.
He's the Blue Falcon's sidekick.
Yes, and that's how
Oh,
that
okay.
all happened.
That's how that comes from.
Yes. And that's where they added like Captain Caveman and the Team Angels. They basically used this. They evolved this show to spawn all the other shows. It's the same art style mostly. Shaggy's chin is a bit wider, and Daphne's got the craziest eyes. They are never looking in the same direction. She's always got like a lazy eye. They're just everything else is fine. Even Shaggy's chin, it isn't bad. It's just like noticeably wider if you just watched the original. But Daphne's eyes are crazy. I actually noticed that I think they're also still crazy in 13 Ghosts, but they were noticeably crazy in the Scooby Doo show.
Yeah, I did notice the animation in 13 Ghosts didn't look quite right.
Yeah. So
They they do always end up going back to, I think, those classic looks from the original series. Again, it was one of those things where they really nailed it on the first try.
I think they've been
Anytime they've
really
attempted,
trying to recapture that magic.
yeah.
Cuz
That's
like
the thing. It doesn't matter how many different new iterations of Scooby Doo. It doesn't matter how many Velmas there are. It doesn't matter how many changes up to the animation style. Eventually, they do always go back to those classic versions of the characters, and they'll keep going before they try something different again. But it doesn't sound like that was. It's not, this era isn't a huge animation shift. Just
yeah,
a little, just enough to be off.
just enough where if you just watch the other one, it's a little bit off. But otherwise, the animation's fine. One of the first things that it starts off with them sitting in a pizza place that says open all night, but night is spelled Nite. And I was just like, come on, Hanna-Barbera.
It was intentional.
And in this episode, they all get jobs. working, or Fred and Shag, they're out of money. So Fred, because the whole thing of the first season of Scooby Doo, like Scooby Doo, Where Are You? I think for the most part they were just like around their area because they were still high school kids. But in the Scooby Doo show is when they're like driving around the country. And so they're driving around the country. They've run out of money, so Fred and Shaggy get a job at a construction site that it turns out is haunted.
That's what.
And
It's not surprising that they run out of money because they never really get hired, do they?
they don't,
Just
they
sort of
just
stumble upon things.
do this. Yeah, they do get hired in this one, I think, to eventually
That's good. To detect instead of
detect.
just like stumbling upon a mystery and solving it. Fun.
Because, yeah, so it works. It's good. It's not a bad concept. Again, like it is standard Scooby Doo. This series seemed to be a little more slapstick and a little more absurd in its humor.
Hmm.
This is where we kind of started getting into like, cause Scooby Doo's kind of absurdist. Very like physical comedy oriented and stuff, double takes, goofy sound effects and stuff. And this is really where I felt like a lot of that started was the ABC influence. So it was still Scooby Doo. My kid was equally into it. I did not hate it. Again, it might have just been an episode that I was like, all right, that's an episode of Scooby Doo. You know what I mean? Like there are hits and there's misses, and it wasn't even a
Sure,
huge
to
miss. It was
a
just
little kid, it's all gonna look the same.
yeah.
They're not gonna notice those
My
little differences
kid
that we do.
did not know we were watching a different show.
No.
So I'd say continue to give the Scooby Doo show slash the All Star Laugh Olympics a try. I'm not disappointed that I rewatched that episode. It's just, that specific one, with the exception of Daphne's eyes, was fine.
Okay. Still good. Still good. It's still Scooby Doo.
Yeah. So then
Yeah.
we move on to the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, which I was really excited about because I had never actually seen 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, but it was, I believe, the first Scooby Doo show that is overarching plot.
Hmm. The first one with like actual paranormal activity happening.
Yes, real paranormal activity, week to week plot. And one of the big things about this one is it never finished, it was canceled. And they never caught the 13th ghost. But they did release a movie a few years ago and wrapped it all up after
Mhm.
30 plus years.
30 something years. Okay, so this was 80. Was this
85.
89? It was
85.
85. Okay, so this is the year that we were born. Um, then yeah, they wrapped it up. I think in 2019. I was reading about that. Uh, I watched the first episode and just like, okay, I'm gonna wait until after we do the podcast so I don't get myself confused. But I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna watch that whole thing.
Really?
I liked it. I mean, I like that there was a story. There are things about it I
Oh,
absolutely did not like.
I
But I like the fact that there
hated
was a story
this.
to it. You hated it. Oh
I
my god.
I'm gonna delete it from my Plex.
Wow. It's
Oh
on
my
Tubi.
god, I was on my phone so quick. I didn't look at my phone at all for the first two shows. Okay, I'll go through my thoughts. Vincent Price is in this one.
Yeah.
Classic, great.
He's
I
so good.
he was great, but I was just like, why did you sign on to this? This is terrible. It doesn't make sense. So first off, Scrappy freaking Doo is in it.
Yeah, I mean, when Scrappy's. I mean, I feel like he wasn't doing a lot because this show had too many kid sidekicks.
Yeah, that's the thing. So one of my first notes is, oh no, this has Scrappy Doo, and then, oh no, they added an annoying ethnic kid sidekick.
Flim Flam was a major mistake. Flim Flam is no good.
Flim
He
Flam
was really bad,
is
and I loved it
problematic.
so. Just like the. Oh yeah, Flim Flam is a big problem.
Yeah, I
First
was
his name. First his name. Second, I mean, he's a stereotypical little like mountain village grifter kid. I don't know.
from
I don't
like
know if I
Tibet.
know any
Like
Tibetan stereotypes. I don't know what they are, but I feel like he was not good.
he was not
Um,
a positive reflection of his people.
Oh, I do. I love the woman who plays him. Is Susan Blue, another Transformers actress. She was RC in the Transformers series, and she went on to have an incredible resume. Not just in voice acting, but voice directing. She did so many different shows, and she was even she was the the mom of one of the characters in, I think, Friday the 13th 4 or 5. I think it was whatever one had the psychic teenager in it. I love her. Flim Flam is bad. Flim Flam is a bad character.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't great. So I had these two like off the bat. I was like, "Oh no." And then like Velma and Freddy are not in this show.
No, I think they try to explain that in. They try to explain that in some of the later series because I know they reference 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo in Mystery Incorporated, and they reference the events of this show in that movie, The 13th Ghost. I think they just explained that they were off doing something else that summer and were not
It's
around.
like Shaggy and Daphne and Scrappy and Scooby are flying to Hawaii in the mystery flying machine because they have a mystery machine plane now.
Shaggy could fly in this series. He
And
can fly a plane, but not very well because he gets very lost.
and were they dating in this season?
I don't know. I don't think so. But it's a weird pairing, right?
It's a weird pairing. There
Because
was definitely hugging. It was just like why would Daphne be going to Hawaii with Shaggy?
right, it's like there are characters in Scooby Doo. I still did like this show, and I am gonna watch it. But there are things that are just perplexing. Um,
I'll leave it on my Plex for you.
it's on. There are other places I can watch it. No problem. It's like they're all a group of friends, and they all hang out, and they all have their own friendships. But there are people who might be in your friend group who are also people you wouldn't go on a long road trip with, and I feel like that's true of Shaggy and Daphne. They seem to have the least amount of
Yes.
crossover friend energy. Like they're definitely good friends. They're in that friend group. But like I could see Shaggy and Freddy going on like a road trip. I could see Shaggy and Velma. I could see Daphne and Freddy because I think yeah, they're always a couple. I could definitely see Daphne and Velma. But the Daphne Shaggy Scooby combo doesn't it feels off. Just it's not
Yes.
correct.
It doesn't work. Yeah, I agree. I have a note that says I'm 3 minutes in and I understand why it was canceled, and I think that's right after Flim Flam showed up.
Oh no, Flim Flam was problematic.
My next note
Like,
is why is Daphne dressed like April O'Neil?
from what I read, they tried to modernize their appearances. So for Shaggy, that meant getting a red shirt instead of a green shirt. Sure, I guess. He bought a second shirt. For Daphne, it was that very April O'Neil-esque outfit.
And the
Not her better,
animation
not better, not a good look for her.
the animation style for this is different from the original Scooby Doo. This is very much Hanna-Barbera mid 80s Johnny Quest vibe.
Pretty cheap. It's cheap looking.
Very cheap, very like not nearly as much like bright colorful stuff like they're used like not that Scooby Doo was ever bright and colorful, but there was like those pops and this is just that very muted, gloomy mid 80s Hanna-Barbera look. And I feel like that did not help cuz you can't have flim flam and a drop in production. You can have one or the other.
Oh, that's true.
Also, eventually Daphne is turned into a werewolf by drinking wolfsbane.
Not the lore.
Not the
I
lore,
had a
the
problem.
complete opposite of what wolfsbane should do, which is in its name. And there was this show was killed with 1,000 little cuts for me.
I liked it. I don't think it was good. I still enjoyed it. I think I want to watch it because there's so many people in it who I like in later episodes. Like, I don't know when, but I know Peter Cullen is a character. Phil Hartman is a character. I don't know how much they're in it, but like they're there. Kenneth Mars was the mayor of this little town in this episode. So there are people in this that I like, and it's such a train wreck that I can't help but be into it.
There are two ghosts that are not part of the 13 ghosts. They're just these two like bumbling henchmen ghosts that I hated. There was just too many annoying sidekicks.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Our annoying sidekick count is up to 4, and we were like 5 minutes into this episode. And they're staying for the long run.
Oh yeah, they are there throughout. I don't know. Maybe it's also that I know that it got canceled and then was actually finished, and I'm interested to see like how they finish it with a modern Scooby Doo movie. No Scrappy. They get rid of Scrappy for the movie, but like you get an aged up Flim Flam. I was like, I can't believe they bring back
It
Flim Flam.
takes them that long to catch 13 ghosts?
I think they, in the continuity of the movie, this is I don't I find continuity over time very fascinating. It's one of those things where again, like there's no way that in 1985 when they were putting this together could they have thought like, "Oh, we're going to need to pick this up at some point decades down the line." They had no idea. I'm interested to see what the modern writers do with this ridiculous 80s cartoon and how they make it work. Cuz I like the new Scooby Doo movies, like the stuff that they're putting out now with the kind of classic versions of the characters, like the new movies, which again, like I spent a lot of my weekend watching because my daughter's into those right now. I'm interested to see what they do with them. Um, I don't know. I like the vibe. I hated Flim Flam. I hated Scrappy. I don't think that the chemistry from Shaggy and Daphne is there. I can't tell you what I liked about this show. I just liked
So,
it.
I just learned that Fred and Velma were off at summer camp, and all I can say is that if you're old enough to go to summer camp, you're not old enough to fly a plane to Hawaii.
Maybe they're counselors.
Uh,
I'm trying to excuse this show. This show is so bad. I don't know why I like it.
so they captured 12 of the 13 ghosts before being canceled, which just seems it just seems mean.
You really should have thought that they should not have ended this on a cliffhanger, and they should have wrapped it up as they were going. There was no reason they should have done that.
Yeah, so the fact that they just stop after 12 ghosts, wait 20 years, and then get around to getting the 13th ghost is I need you to finish this so you can fill me in.
I can't wait to do it. I will do that because I'm almost through that '90s show, and I'll need another thing to watch when that's
How
done.
is that?
It's pretty good.
Cool.
I think
I
that
won't digress.
yeah, let's not get into it.
I don't know if I can take your opinion though. You think the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo was good?
I'm not gonna tell you that that '90s show is anything brilliant. I have a lot of thoughts on it that I like started typing into a Facebook post, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna let this go. I was like, there's no way that anybody who was working on that show was concerned about the continuity the way that I am.
I enjoyed the trailer.
It's I'm not gonna get to it. This is gonna be like that Sonic the Hedgehog digression that we had where I just talked about Sonic the Hedgehog for like 30 minutes.
Fair enough. We canceling on after 12 of the 13 ghosts has big Pirates of Dark Water energy, but even worse. Did you
Pirates of Dark Water, I was aware. I saw a couple episodes of it. I don't remember it well enough.
I
Did they
loved
closed on a cliffhanger also?
I loved Pirates of Dark Water. So the whole concept is again 13. They had to get 13 treasures to like save the world and stop the spread of the darkness, and they got like 8 of them and then got canceled.
Ooh, so the darkness won.
They I think in the finale they're able to like push back a lot of it, but like it's not done. They need to get the last 7 and then they just never came back. And it
Yeah, I
was
mean,
like I thought that was bad, but ending if they had gotten 12 of the treasures and then gotten canceled, I think 8-year-old me would
That
have
would have been
rioted.
insane. Well, that goes back to what we were saying. One of the benefits of that first season of Scooby Doo is they were clearly just making episodes. There was no overarching story. Like, it could just be what it was. And that meant when it ended, it could get infinitely rerun. Like, there's still, I'm sure, on some cable channel running the old episodes of Scooby Doo, where they're not going to do that with the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo because it's not enough. Like, it's an overarching story that doesn't end. Nobody wants to watch that. Um, and also, there's not enough episodes really to justify it going into syndication, which is why of the Scooby Doo's, I feel like this one, it's one of the ones that really has fallen into obscurity in a big way. Which is why I'm so surprised they even bothered to make a movie for it. Like, who remembered it well enough to be
Who
asking for that?
who was demanding this? Yeah.
Or it could just be, like they're putting out so much Scooby Doo content that they're always just looking for old storylines to mine. I know there's plenty of Scooby Doo, like, in recent years that has been, like, started to be made and never come out, which means that wasn't true for this one. They were like, oh, we got far enough into this and we're going to finish it. Like, we're making the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo movie.
Yeah, I always feel like there just had to be someone who worked on the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo and stayed with Hanna-Barbera long enough that they got high enough in the company that they had the authority to finish it.
It's like, I'm finally doing it. I'm finally finishing this story after 30 something. Like,
Yeah.
35 years at that point.
I was given the green light to do another Scooby-Doo movie, and we are wrapping this up.
So good for whoever that was. They lived their dream. One
Yeah.
thing that I thought was kind of funny, there was a Scooby Doo movie. Some images of it were leaked, maybe a few months ago. They were doing a crossover with this Legion of Superheroes cartoon from like Kids WB. Probably not when we were in high school, maybe when we were in college this would have been on the air. And they were going to do a Scooby Doo crossover movie with that within the last couple of years. And it seems like they got part of the way through production and then canceled it. I'm like, why would you even think to do that? No one remembers that show. But with 13th Ghost, they were like, oh no, we're finishing this. This is happening. Very impressive.
All right. I think we've done enough on the 13 Ghosts. We are a podcast divided on this show. I'm excited to jump into three more. I'm excited to try What's New Scooby Doo, Be Cool Scooby Doo, and Scooby Doo and Guess Who because I have seen none of them.
I've seen some of these. I'm excited to rewatch them. And again, I'm going to have to stop myself from just sitting down and watching the whole thing through.
Yeah, it's been hard for me because again, my kid got really into them, so there's just been a lot. Luckily, I've also been very busy at work though, so I haven't actually gotten to watch it, which is both a blessing and a curse because I'm not muddled by the series, but I also did get to watch Scooby Doo.
Yeah. Oh, there will come a day.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for the first episode of season three.
Yep. Please join us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at RTSpiritsPod. We'd love to hear from you. Please comment, like, subscribe wherever you listen. It always helps us out.
It does. And go back if
Okay.
you're new. I know we've got a lot of new listeners. We have 35 episodes before this, not including some of our digression episodes, which were much more popular in the beginning.
Guess we're staying too on tap. We're staying too on topic these days. Not producing extra content.
So go back, listen to it. If we get enough likes on the Dads Digress, I'll allow us to go into things like Sam's thoughts on that 90s show.
Let me tell you everything I think about that 90s show. No, don't let me talk about it, please.
All
I'm gonna go
right.
watch it now. That's my plan for what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna go watch some that 90s show.
Awesome.
Right,
Uh,
everybody. We'll see you next time, everybody.
I'm Steve.
I'm Sam.
Thanks for joining us.
I